What's up everyone, I am Ahmed Khalifa and today I am going to be talking about the famous green bullet or traffic light system that you all see on Yoast. And we've seen it, we've all seen it. You know the section at the bottom on WordPress when you start typing in your content, and at the bottom it tells you whether you have got that red light, the orange light or the green light, and you work so hard to get that content right so you can get that famous green bullet and then you celebrate. But the thing is, I'm here to tell you that it's not all that, because sometimes you should not even bother aiming for that green light. I know, shock, horror, you can't believe it, could you? But I'm serious, you don't have to worry about it all the time. I hear it so many times that people think about that green bullet thing, and you think about how we should always aim for that, and if you get that, you get your content perfectly optimized, you'll get your high ranking that you're looking for. But it's not true, because there are so many myths that is around that green bullet thing, and I'm here to kind of dispel it, and I'm also here to tell you a few things what you should be worried about instead. Before you even start thinking about getting that green bullet, the most important thing is getting that focus keyword, as Yoast call it, and that is, when you think about how do you expect your audience to find that content you've created when they search on any search engine. And every time you think about that, that should be what your focus keyword would be about. So for example, if you have a page that is about, let's just say, handmade sterling silver necklace, if that's what you expect me to search for and find your page, then put that as your focus keyword. But if your focus keyword is something like necklace, which is very broad, or even silver necklace, then you're gonna kind of shoot yourself in the foot, because that is not a focus keyword. And in the end, that will affect whether you get that green bullet point or not. And that's why you should be careful about what your focus keyword could be. So think about it. Think about how your audience will be finding your content, and then take it from there. Once you have that, Yoast will tell you to kind of put it in certain places, but here's the thing you should know. Put it in the right places does not necessarily mean that your content will be perfectly optimized and 100% optimized, because I'm going to tell you right now, there's no such thing as a perfectly optimized piece of content. That doesn't exist. There's no way you could do that. So you could help by making things better by putting it in the title and putting it in the meta description and the URL. Then yes, you can make things better that way. But if you think that putting it every single place will give you that perfectly optimized content, it's not going to happen. I can promise you, it's not going to happen at all. And then when you have that perfectly optimized content, let's just say perfectly optimized content actually, then you think that you're kind of almost guaranteed, or maybe guaranteed, to have a high ranking on Google. And again, there's no such thing, first of all, as guarantee, and second of all, again, having everything in place in that content of yours using Yoast does not guarantee anything. It will make things easier, make things better, it will improve your chances, but it will not guarantee high ranking on Google. Let's just get that straight right now. There are times where it actually makes sense following the recommendations that Yoast have provided. So a couple of examples would be to make sure that you have enough kind of text and content on your page. Because if you have a very thin, low quality or very few words on that page, how are you expecting to kind of get Google to understand what your page is about? And also, most importantly, how are you expecting to give the information that your audience is looking for about a particular topic? So make sure you have enough content in there, make sure you have enough words in there. I should say, there's no such thing as the perfect number of how many words, what you should be your minimum or maximum. Write however you need to write to get that message across, to get that information to your audience, and to make sure that that page is as detailed as you should make it be. But, just make sure that you have everything that you need to kind of provide for your audience. And the other recommendation that you also provide is make sure that you don't have two pages that are targeting the same focus keyword. So for example, if you have that one page that maybe talk about, as we mentioned before, a sterling silver necklace, and that is your focus keyword, and then you have another page which has your same keyword, the same content, then you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot, because how are Google supposed to understand which page is more important, which one is more relevant, And how are you going to make it relevant for your audience? You know, if you have 2 pages about similar things, then why bother? You know, why not have it under one, and why not have it that one page the best you can make it be, and that would be that focus keyword, focusing on that. So Yoast would tell you that if you're clashing with yourself, you know, you're kind of competing against yourself, then you should not do that. You know, there's no point doing that. So let's not, you know, have 2 kind of pages focusing on the same keywords at all. At the end of the day though, you know better than any machine, bot, tool, software about your audience, about your products, about your market. Yoast and anything else is there to help you, to kind of guide you and give you recommendations. But sometimes you might want to go against their recommendation because you know better. You know, Yoast is not there to be an expert in your field. You should know better than them. And that is why sometimes I say to you, you know, if with your gut instinct you think that it is actually your recommendation is better than Yoast, then fine, that makes sense. But if you think that, you know, you don't understand about SEO, or Yoast has provided recommendation that it makes sense to you, then you can think about that as well. You should consider using that as well. So always think about your own knowledge, your own experience, instead of using a machine that will do that for you. So what should you do then about the green bullet? Should you think about it? Should you not? And if you don't want to think about it, then what do? Because it's always there in your face. So a few things I would recommend. First of all, if you're going to start writing your content, don't write it on WordPress in the beginning. Start off somewhere else, like on Microsoft Word or on Evernote or some kind of notepad. Just write it there, and then when you think it's done, then move it to WordPress, and then everything's there kind of for you. That way, you will not be influenced by the green bullets. The other thing you should do is that make sure you do your keyword research, because how are you supposed to know what is the best keyword to choose for in your audience? You might think you know what your audience is searching for, and you should do, but that could be the base of what you're going to start with, and then after that see what kind of related keywords you can find around that. So that also could also be your focus keyword. So make sure you do that, and then kind of build around that as well. Your keyword research, find your focus keyword, and then build your content around that. You may have not noticed that, you know, there's also another section to Yoast about readability, and that's just about how easy is it for your content to be read, how well structured it is the sentence not too long, is the paragraph not too big and chunky, you know, is it kind of understandable for your audience? And that's also important because your engagement level is very important. It's not just about having the information there, because you could have all the information on a page, but if it's not structured in the right way, if it's in a big chunk text and it's not really formatted correctly with the headline and the subheadings, then you kind of making it difficult for your audience, and that's not what you want. So there's another side of Yoast called Readability. Make sure you check that out, and that will also give you an idea about how kind of easy it is for your audience to read your content. But at the same time though, you might not want to follow 100%, because there is a section about, you know, the language and how intellectual your content is, and it will tell you whether it is easy for an average person to understand what you're writing about, which is fine. But if you are in an industry where there's a lot of kind of big words and jargon, and maybe you're in like a science industry, or you're in a law industry, or you're an engineer and so on, and you're gonna have these words which is not kind of common in the everyday language, well, that's okay. I mean, if that's what your audience want and need, and that's how they understand the language, then you go for that. But you might be aware that if you use these words, Yoast will tell you that it's not understandable, you should change it. But that's not always the case. As I said to you earlier, you know better about your audience than Yoast. So don't always follow to heart. If you don't get that green bullet, don't worry about it, because if you think you've got everything spot on, but as well as that you have everything laid out correctly and you followed most of the recommendations, then you've done well. And you shouldn't be too obsessed about that beloved, infamous, precious little green bullet. So I hope that helps you. You know, just be aware of that. And if you have any questions at all, leave a comment down below, and I will get back to you as soon as I can as well. I hope you found that useful, and if you have, I would really appreciate it if you can subscribe to the channel right down below, and of course just keep doing your thing, because it really does matter. and I'll see you next time.